Hello everyone. Welcome to our Product Ops HQ Meetup. This is the first one of 2025. My name is Anna and I'm your community manager here at Product Ops HQ. And I'm also part of the Dragonboat team. I'm joining you from Portugal. I'm super excited to be your MC today as we kick off the year together. So while we wait for everyone to join us, please tell us where you are in the chat. With me today is Leah, also from Dragonboat. She will be in the chat to help with any questions that you might have and sharing some helpful resources with you. Okay, so I'm really happy to see some familiar faces today and also some new ones too. So if you are new here, a special welcome to you. Just to give you some context, our community was created to serve the growing needs of product operation professionals just like you, to meet, share ideas, learn to grow together. We host virtual meetups covering a wide range of topics, and we also provide some networking opportunities through our Slack, where you can connect with peers and ask questions and share your insights. So if you are not there yet, be sure to check it out. So Leah is going to drop the link in the chat for you to join us. We have an exciting session today, and I can't wait to get started. But first, a few quick housekeeping notes. So this session is being recorded and you will get the recording via email after the event. This session will also be interactive and will be guided by one of our community members. So with so many of us here, please keep your mic muted while the moderator is speaking. After that, everyone is invited to speak. So you can either drop your thoughts in the chat as we go, or you can turn on your mic to share directly with the group. We want this space to be a space where everyone feels comfortable by sharing and connecting. So the most important note is have fun and stay engaged with us. All right, so before I hand the mic over to our moderator, a quick word from our sponsor. This community is brought to you by Dragonboat. Dragonboat is an AI native product operations platform that enables everyone in a product operating model, from CPOs to product managers to product operations and their teams, to set clear strategies, build portfolio roadmaps, and deliver products that delight customers and accelerate business outcomes. Dragonboat's Product Ops Copilot has been running in production for over 5 years, and it's supporting thousands of product teams across leading companies and managing over 52 billion in annual product and engineering investments. Dragonboat is more than a platform. They are your partner to achieve product operating excellence, which includes, of course, sponsoring our lovely community. So if you are interested in learning more about Dragonboat, Leah will drop a link in the chat for you. And with that, I think we have a lot of participants now. So let's go to the exciting part. Today's roundtable is all about what's in store for product operations in 2025. And we will have Clare Hawthorne, Senior Director of Engineering and Product Operations at Oscar Health, to guide us through this discussion. She will start by sharing her thoughts, and then it's your turn. So get ready to contribute. So Clare, without further ado, I will hand over the mic to you for you to introduce yourself and kick things off. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Anna. And thank you everyone for joining. When Anna reached out to me a few weeks ago, I was so excited to share my thoughts and kind of predictions for what's in store in Product Operations 2025. I did just get a pop-up on my computer that my internet is unstable, so wish us luck. This might be a little bumpy, but I think it'll be great. So I came to all of you. I'll also be trying to look at the chat if any of you have immediate reactions when I share. But Anna, can you advance to my first prediction? So first up, I think that product operations is well positioned to champion. So what do I mean by outcomes oriented? I think this is where we're not just administering roadmaps. We're not just having people write down their OKRs. We're really seeing our role as stewards in that process. And this was a mindset shift that we had here at Oscar, where
I think
here we
we
go.
just, yeah, you're back. Thank you.
Bear with me, guys. It looks like there's construction in my building. So let's is a little bit more cohesive. I think that being able to not just administer processes, but really see yourself as a core participant in these processes are critically important. And so I came up with a GIF for each of these. And why is it that we do that? Because it's what champions do. We're all champions in product operations. And I think it can be sometimes easy or intimidating, especially when you don't know every nook and cranny of the roadmap, to feel like it's not your job to push back on product managers or to ours, but we're in a position to see the big picture and we understand what those standards are. And so depending on your role, depending on what you do, you might be someone who's running an OKR process, or you might be someone who's collating materials, the PRDs. Make sure that you're not just moving that work around, but you're really using your expertise to make sure that the teams are hitting that high bar and that high standard in terms of that outcome orientation. So my second prediction is that I believe very strongly that product operations, we are going to be the place and the people who unlock enablement for Gen AI company-wide. Now, I know that there are probably a few of you on the call who are a little intimidated by this. You're not an AI expert, you're not an engineer, there are other people on your team that feel like they're better positioned. But believe me, Anna, if you can share that next GIF, I think that this community should always have faith in themselves. We are connectors, we are teachers, we lose internet from time to time. But in all seriousness, I do think, are really in that crosshairs. And something excited that we did at Oscar very recently was we developed our own AI workshop. We had some internal tools and we were trying to encourage use of our LLM tools and AI within the product ops team. And so a member of my team, Sophia, who may or may not be able to join, she put together a walkthrough of our tooling. We had like a live workshop where everyone picked a use case and they kind of did a prototype, brought it back to their stakeholders or their Scrum teams. And we got such rave reviews that now we've sort of turned that into a train the trainer. And other folks within product operations are working with pods or Scrum teams or other parts of the business, because I think that we're in that intersection of, we understand what LLMs are capable of, but we also know some of the manual work that's getting done and the processes that need to be designed. And I think a key piece of our DNA that not everyone else has is we're also mindful of the long term. So we know that if we just spin up AI every time anyone says the word, we're going to create a lot of tech debt. We're going to create a lot of process debt. And so I think that us being in a position where we can help govern and steward, so embarrassed that this is happening, and there will be a nasty letter to my internet provider after this call. But anyway, so that was our chat on the, and unfortunately my phone doesn't have a hotspot, which is making this even worse. But let's move to the third prediction, and then we'll open up the floor, and hopefully it'll be less distracting if I do end up dropping in and out. So my last prediction is that product operations will, and I'll turn off my video per that suggestion. My last prediction is that we in product operations will be able to apply our superpowers to so what do I mean by this? We are really good process designers. And I think that some of the classic product ops use cases are things that we've seen in a lot of different places. There's roadmaps, there's OKRs, there's PRD templates. I think those are all really classic ways that product ops gets their foot in the door. And those superpowers, and you can advance to the GIF, Anna, those superpowers of design, this kind of classic product management use cases. And so what we've seen at Oscar is that product operations is really involved in processes that are frankly more tied to a lot of engineering use cases. So these are things like CapEx, incident management, job monitoring. And in all of these cases, product operations was brought in as the process designer. We had something really manual, really time consuming, and we know at first it felt a little intimidating to go into some of these more technical processes. So closing slide, Anna, you can bring up all three. These are my three predictions for the opportunities that product ops has in 2025, championing that outcomes-oriented team, enabling companies with Gen AI, and then applying our superpowers across more. Okay, so that was because now I can engage everyone else in the conversation. Curious what folks' reactions are. I see that there's starting to be some notes as we come in. Terry, I saw that you have a proof of concept about an AI concierge service. Can you share a little bit more about that?
Yeah, sure. So I'm starting this journey. So there's, I've only been working on it a couple of weeks, but the results so far are encouraging. So basically what I did when I started in the product ops department, which was probably 2.5 months ago now, I reversed on my product managers. So I've come from product management. I was a product manager. And I've been doing some discovery on them, right, and linking that to some of my experiences. And there was lots of kind of feedback of kind of like, oh, it's really difficult to find out who's looking after X feature, who's the tech lead for this particular thing, when is the release update going to be, what's the date for this, when is that, all this information that's really quite difficult to find and get to. You can get to it eventually, but okay, you've wasted like 5 minutes looking for that information, and then you look for another piece of information, you wasted another 10 minutes. So there was a golden opportunity there. Oh, I can use AI for that. There are other generative use cases that I want to go after once I've got fetch sorted out. So I've got fetch, inform, and generate. So looking at things like, can we generate a simple roadmap presentation on PPT based on the current AHA roadmap, right, using the template, stuff like that. Again, very early at the moment, but that's what I'm looking to try and do.
That's awesome, Terry. Thank you so much for sharing, and hopefully that's prompting some ideas for other folks. We are trying this on my mobile phone. I did lose the chat history, but excited for other folks to jump in and share either the reactions to the predictions or predictions that they have of. Okay, I see a question in the chat here. Do you agree that the reasons why product operations will succeed are shared with other ops teams, design ops, research ops, PMM ops, data and analytics ops, and even DevOps? Peter, I'm not sure if I'm entirely following your question. Do you want to come off mute and sort of explain where you're coming from?
Sure. Hi. These you explained 3 reasons why product ops is going to succeed in all of these and how we can contribute to
Yep.
fantastic teams. And the caveat is here, it depends on your definition of product ops, but
Yeah.
do you agree that like maybe other specialist ops teams have these like they have the same reason, they have the same capabilities, they have the same superpower, they might
Yep.
also be good at introducing AI, etc. Do you feel this is a shared effort, or is it specific to like product ops? And here I say product
Yep.
management ops.
Yeah. And so I think that thanks for the clarification. And for those of you who've like seen me around the community, I think you all know I have a very broad definition of product ops, probably one of the broadest. And I've actually sort of internally, we call ourselves tech operations, not just product operations. And we see ourselves as stewards of the entire tech team. We're here to help people ship their roadmaps, not here to help product managers or designers or the program teams. So yes, I completely agree that all of these traits are shared across operationally minded people. And that's something that we've been trying to make sure that people kind of understand. We have a different set of superpowers than our colleagues, whether they're product managers or engineers or designers or security professionals. And I think that there's a really lovely complementary relationship that we can have with all of the kind of maker functions, where we are different. We make things, but they're kind of different things. And I get a lot of personal satisfaction being that enabler, that connector, and that kind of long range thinker. I think many of you can probably resonate. If you've worked with product managers and engineers and designers, so often they're so excited to like get something out the door, and then it's like squirrel, like off to the next thing. And I think we're here thinking about not just launch day, but launch day plus 30, launch day plus 60, launch day plus 365. And I think a lot of those operational sub-functions that you mentioned kind of share that same DNA. Cool.
Thank you.
Thanks, Peter.
That helps.
Hi, Claire. I have a
Yes.
question. This is Rukmini joining from San Francisco Bay Area. So Claire, I wanted to ask you, I'm very curious, given your experience, given the current situation with AI and the tech stack really, really like reducing and just companies changing their ways of working. The 2 questions I have is, how technical do you think product operations managers should be? When I say technical, I mean like really SQL heavy, actually understanding AI product management really well. So like that kind of tech stack, how important is it to like really upskill that section? And number 2, what do you think are like the top 4 to 5 skill sets in general that product operations folks, like all of us, this community, should have going forward as well?
Yep. So 2 great questions. Let me see if I can sort of decouple them and chat to both of them. The first one, in terms of kind of disruption and kind of the level of technical sophistication, I think that's the first question, right? I think that we at Oscar have recruited people who are, I'd say they have high technical aptitude. So we haven't in the past required SQL experience, but the expectation is that you're curious enough and willing to pick it up if it's important in your day-to-day. And I'd say it is important in a lot of people's day-to-day. Now, that said, I also think that AI is a huge democratizer in terms of leveling the playing field. And I know that we've had cases, even within our product operations team in the last few months, where we've had folks use AI tools to help generate SQL queries or to help even write some lightweight code. And just last week, I was participating in an onsite, and we were using a tool called Replit, which is a sort of prototyping tool that you can get a license to. We have a license at Oscar, but you can play around with it for free. And I was incredibly impressed with how sophisticated this prototyping could be. And I was paired with one of our senior directors in engineering. And I turned to him at one point and I was like, "Yeah, is this like the way that you code now? There was a coding assistant and all this stuff. He was like, Claire, I haven't written code in a year. And so even the engineers, I think, are learning these new ways of working and having new patterns. And I think that phasing into your second question a little bit, when I think about skills for product operations or some of these other tech operations related roles, some of the things that come to mind, one is like problem solving and pattern recognition. So one of the things that I think sets us apart is being able to see something that's a similar but not the same context. So maybe over in one place, you've had issues with bugs. And in another place, they're not bugs, but there are other stakeholder requests that are still coming in on a queue, and it's like kind of complicated. I think we're pretty good at seeing the pattern of like, oh, those two are the same thing. And I think that that is so intuitive for us, and I think actually quite complicated for a lot of other people. And they'll look at it and be like, well, but one is bugs and they're in Jira, and one is stakeholder requests in Slack. And you're like, yeah, but it's the same problem. So I think that like pattern recognition and problem solving are really key. And I think the other piece that I would really advocate for is kind of scalable and long-term thinking. So making sure that when you're designing a new process or a solution or tackling a problem, you're not just fixing for today, but you're fixing in a way that you can repeat going forward. And we've had some cases on our team recently where someone kind of identified, hey, these documents that need to get digitized, this is something that's going to happen every month or every quarter. I'm going to be smart about how I'm investing my time, and I'm going to like spend a little bit of extra time up front to make sure that in the long run, this isn't something that like continues to be a drag on our resources, and sort of making sure that you can think about not just the short-term fix, but how it's going to scale over time. I think is another thing that really sets us apart.
Thanks, Claire.
Of course. What processes have you already delegated to AI? What works and what doesn't? So this is one where I'd also love to invite folks to come in off the chat. So Jan, thank you for such a great conversation starter. A few things for me personally. I will tell you, I have started using it in all sorts of different ways, and we're very lucky. We have this internally based tool where we can use it kind of for any professional use case, but we can also pass through kind of sensitive information. So we don't have to worry about what's going out in the cloud and training someone else's AI model. But a few of my favorites that I've done recently, we were evaluating a vendor solution related to incident management. And I asked AI, I said, hey, I'm trying to evaluate these two vendors. Can you give me a starting point checklist that I can use for this evaluation? And guess what? It wasn't 100%. I still had to modify it. I still had to tweak it. It prioritized some things that we didn't think were important. It was missing some stuff that we did think was important. But oh, can I tell you, it got me 85% of the way there. And so my suggestion to you is whether it's summarizing meeting notes or trying to highlight key themes in a survey, trying to translate something that's very technical into something that's non-technical for another audience. Another use case I had was an engineer was asking me, so why does capitalizing software really matter? And I had an accounting definition, but I was like, help me give a 3-sentence response to a senior engineer who I can like give them why CapEx matters. And so translating for different audiences, I think are really good. But anybody else in the audience have ideas of things that have worked really well for AI use cases?
I mean, I'd say, continuing on like the thread of like just sort of like individual use cases as opposed to like the broader ones for the whole team. One thing that Hillary Gridley, I'm going to mess up her last name, but she had emailed out a prompt. She created a little bot called Slacky. And what she does is every time she drafts a Slack message, she just then feeds that into Slacky, which then like she can do it just like brain dump, and it will format it and it will add bullet points and it will just like clean it up so that it's a much clearer piece of communication. And I still, she sent that prompt out and I've started using it myself. And it's just like this it's like a very simple thing that like to integrate into your use case, but just every time you are, every time I'm about to send out a message, and I've started using it for emails too, I just throw it in there. It will clean it up. It's usually, and it's like very prompted to be like, maintain the original tone and language and don't like try to like AI-ify this. Right. And it's really excellent.
I love that one, Jenny. Chris, I know you have in here also a watch out where AI usage is not optimal. Do you want to share a little bit about some of your experiences there?
Yeah, sure. I guess the thing that I've started to see, there's a time where I was trying to help summarize like an entire team's of PMs, their status for a leader who would then pass that on to the next leader up. And I just found it to be really error prone. So you have to do an awful lot to tell it to not create things or word things in a way that don't make sense. And then I think also there's a little bit of like shaping that happens in that messaging between leaders. And so just yeah, anyways, so that's kind of something that I've tried a bunch and it just never really gave the results that were quite right for that type of thing. But the opposite is I do think like first drafts are great. It's just that if it requires a lot of factual information, it does require either a lot of prompt engineering or you need to double check it, basically.
No, definitely. Kieran, tell us about guidebook creation. What's the use case there?
Okay, so when I was creating a guides for my company, so in my previous job, I was doing that. I was doing the guides for the company. So we had to keep a tone, right? We have to keep the same tone. You keep updating it. So every time I do it, I have to think of, okay, what was the tone that I kept it? What was the terms that I used it? I can't change the tone for the whole guide. So what I did was I created in a chat GPT, I created a prompt and saying, okay, this would be the tone set for the whole guide. So I set it up early on. So I kept a separate folder or a ChatGPT prompt just for this proofreading the document. So every time when I needed to update the document, I used to type it up there and it used to get updated automatically, proofread it and give me the exact terms that I just need to copy and paste it into my guidebook. So it used to reduce my half an hour's more than an hour's work saying, okay, you need to keep it focused, keep it simple. So
Yep.
yeah, that was the place that which I used AI exclusively. So yeah, that's one thing that I did.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that one. And I'm guessing other people are also now walking away from this conversation with like, oh, we could use it here, we could use it there. Peter, you mentioned that you prefer some of the integrated AI features. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yes. So if I don't, okay, I started that sort of comment with, I'm not a fan of standalone AI tools that just say, hey, just start typing and we'll give you some useful answers. I see too much hallucination going on and wrong answers and stuff like that. I would prefer tool makers of tools that we use anyway to explore where AI features are helpful for their tool, for their use cases, and do it right, and not use some generic LLM, but use stuff that's trained on their data, and not just random Medium articles from juniors on the web. So this is why I prefer AI features that are built into tools that we use anyway, like Miro's summarize tools or Copilot in Excel, what I mentioned, or like ServiceNow has plenty of AI features where it suggests proper answers, good answers to IT request messages, stuff like that. That's my preferred way of using AI, which means I don't need to go out and look for specific AI tools. They come to me through the makers of tools that we use anyway.
Love it. Thanks so much. Jana, I think that your AI example is one that's really relevant to a lot of folks. Could you tell us a little bit about the support tickets and how you've used AI there?
Sure. So I am one of the people that I would not say I am the highest technical person. which is where I believe very much in connecting the right people. But I manage both of our help centers, right? So along with product operations, you know, for the product team, there's also the aspect of managing our help centers. And so our support team is actually now a part of the product team. This is kind of a new thing. But our tool, we use Zendesk for our support tickets and for our help center. And it has some limitations. And a major limitation that we found is that it doesn't pull out the trends for the textual interactions of support tickets. That's the most important part. So, so I worked with an engineer that was extremely knowledgeable, and she has started to build a tool, an internal tool that kind of recognizes this. It's in a chat GPT format, but it can pull out trends from these textual interactions, and we don't have to worry about, like you said, you know, this is very PII, and you know, we don't want to mess with that. So it's an internal tool. But what I think is the most exciting part is not only pulling out those trends, but then having something actionable to do with those, and that is pointing it to the help center articles, you know, giving it the layout of our help center and saying, what areas do we start on first? Or if it's maybe a more you know, guides or walkthroughs, maybe we can do something like that. But having that information available and direct us where we would be most impactful is, I think, the key part of the AI portion, because we've done this manually. I've read every single support ticket in the last whatever months and created my own thing. But man, that takes too much time. That's just ridiculous. So so that's kind of where we're headed with that. And like I said, I got to a certain point and we were working on prompts, and I was like, you know, this doesn't feel like my expertise anymore. So let me connect with people and keep it going.
Yeah, and we've also seen at Oscar, we had a case where someone prototyped in this workshop, and I think Sophia maybe has some other examples in the chat. But they came up with a manual process. They were like, oh, you know, we think that the LLMs would be great for this. Brought it back to the Scrum team that it impacted. And the engineering manager was like, we shouldn't use AI. We should just build this into the tool. And so I think that we can even help surface opportunities, whether it's for content that we're going to generate in product operations. And I do want to jump ahead in the chat, because I think the enablement sort of help use case is a really good one. So thank you so much for bringing this one up, Jana. But I also think that we can also look not just at what can AI do, but can AI help us identify a feature gap in our tool set, or a process that we need to formalize. So really, really love that, Jana. So I am going to skip ahead. And I think that Kareem brought up a really interesting use case around product enablement, podcasts, and other supplementary information. Kareem, can you share a little bit about what you guys have done?
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. This is Kareem. I've been in the product ops for around 2 years now. Can you hear me quite well?
Yep.
Yeah. So I'm actually based in Italy, but right now I'm in Egypt in my apartment in New Capital. So regarding this point, right now what we are doing is trying to integrate different parts of AI. One of it is the AI podcast, which is now we are doing this release session. So now we say that we want to complement people or supplement them with another thing, and we choose the AI podcast. It's around like 5 minutes, like a summary of everything that in the release sessions or any session that we host for them. And it like, I believe it does a great job in terms of summarizing and something that they can hear really quickly, and it doesn't involve anything from us to do it or something from the sort.
That's amazing. I love that. And a prompt for the audience. I know that a lot of us have been talking about use cases where we've used AI to help streamline our work. Does anyone have any examples of places where we've either like augmented a customer experience or augmented like an internal team's workflows in terms of how they might be leveraging AI to do their work faster. Dan, this might actually be a pretty good tee up for you in terms of Gen AI assets and agents. Maybe you can kick it off and we can see if anyone else has other examples to share.
Sure. So we have an entire portfolio of 38 offerings. So I'm going to focus more on the question that you asked. So in terms of a customer experience, we have something called a experience orchestrator, where it basically asks about 30 questions to a customer based on what sort of front-end customer experience that they want. And against those inputs, we train the model against the customer's products, the customer's brand, their ideal target buyers they're approaching. And against that, we'll give them a blueprint on how they should design their front-end experience if they're, say, building a commerce site. So that's an example of a customer-facing customer experience manager. And then you can take it to the next level as, hey, do you want it multi-device, single device? And as you start feeding all those questions in, then it'll actually give you widgets on how you can use that to assemble your either website or mobile experience, or the case may be. I mean, one of our marquee clients is Riyadh Air, where we kind of completely build their front end experience for their flyers. Yeah.
Very cool. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Anyone else who has used AI to enable others or to scale impact across your tech team? Or
I can share a couple. I can share a couple of examples that the members of our product operations team at Oscar have had. So when we think about enabling others, one member of our team, his name's Mehul, he's on the call somewhere here, was able to leverage AI to heavily automate a very previously manual process where we had to take some heavy data that was in like a wonky PDF format and translate it into a very formulaic Google Sheet format in order for that to be ingested into one of our tools. And that was owned by tech at the time because it was a very complex process. But because he was able to leverage AI to heavily automate that, he was able to cut down the time spent on that activity by more than 30%. And because it was simplified, we were actually able to move that responsibility over from the tech team to an operational team. So able to empower the operational team to own that process themselves. So I think that was a really cool example of enabling others. And we actually have also another cool example under kind of improving the product feedback loop, where a member of our team, Kelsey, who I'm not sure is on the call, but was actually able to use AI to go through a very kind of complex and high volume help channel and identify trends that were being submitted into that help channel related to some specific tooling. And then on top of that trend identification, she was able to use AI as a brainstorming partner to think through potential solutions to address those trends and those issues in the tooling. So I think those are two cool examples of the ways members of our team have been able to use it both to enable others and improve the product feedback loop.
Cool. Thank you so much, Sophia. I know that we've been talking a lot about Gen AI. Curious if others have other predictions for 2025 and the state of product operations before we wrap.
I believe I can add something here. I believe that with the new generation of the use of AI in video, I believe this will be a major thing that we can use, especially in the product ops. In the past months or so, I tried to use Google, and I believe Microsoft, they did a release in this regard. However, it's not yet available in Europe or in this or in Egypt or anywhere. But like these new AI tools, when you can just like add a certain level of prompts, and then it can like generate a whole video in just a second. I believe the teams can will be able to do so. So if like anyone like in the US, they can like try it and then like tell us their experience from integrating this into their product ops operation.
No. Chris, I saw in the chat more program management like work, ensuring coordination rather than improving collaboration. This isn't the most optimistic prediction for 2025, but do you want to share a little bit about what you're seeing and why you think it's going to shake out this way?
Yeah, I just think if as people and teams start getting more reactive, just with there's like a fear of a lot of things, and maybe with like the combination of like layoffs and just roles that need to help pitch in to do more like heroic coordination work, I think we'll not be able to focus on the way that we improve the methods of like collaboration within the team. And I mean, I'm already seeing that within my role, honestly. And so I think that's unfortunately a trend that we're going to see. And I don't know, I hate to be the one, but I am wondering, like what is product ops for if that's the type of thing that we're doing. I have a hard enough time describing the difference with TPMs and program managers sometimes as it is.
Yeah. And I think that we've seen this a little bit on a micro scale at Oscar. We have gone through ebbs and flows in terms of the degree of program management resourcing we've had. And I'd say in the last year, we had reduced the footprint of that team. And so we were seeing in our embedded product ops folks an uptick in what we would call project management. It wasn't really complicated programs. We did have a specialized skill set for that. But we were seeing some of that coordination move to the product operations team. And if folks didn't have product operations, it was moving to engineers or product managers. And so I think that everyone's feeling a little bit of that squeeze, to your point, Chris. But for folks that have product operations, I think it's a natural place for some of that work to fall. And I think a choice that folks need to make in terms of how much does that align with the goals that you see for yourself and your organization and where you're delivering value? I think at Oscar, we've been pretty pragmatic, and we do see it as a way that we're furthering our vision of advancing the roadmap. But I know that it's something that doesn't always align with the goals of the product ops teams.
Well, and if I could add something else, like I think this is one of those hazards of us trying to focus too much on the end customer rather than the product group, basically, or the product. I say PMing the PM experience. I know not everybody agrees with that in the community, but like, I think that once we start to look at the customer, the end customer as our customer, I think we start to do more and more of kind of the bullshit work that PMs don't want to do. And that's the other thing I worry about with like PMs being strained further during this trend. It means that we'll get more of that work where it's like, oh, can this product ops person just take care of this thing for me, basically. So yeah.
And Chris and I have often had lively debates about the end customer focus versus the PMing the PM experience focus. So for those of you who are going to be in the community, stay tuned. Chris and I are two sides of the argument there.
And there's a spectrum. And I think Jenny wanted to add something too.
Oh yeah, Jenny.
Yeah, so the thing that I was going to add with all of that though is the risk. Like one of the things that I see is like, the more that we spend our time in spaces where we're not high leverage, right? Where we're doing more execution work, the more likely they're sort of, depending on how it gets spun, it could be very high risk, or it could be it could be just where things are headed. Because the other side of it is like, oh, well, why do we have this second person on the team doing the work of a product manager when we already have a product manager, right? Like that's redundant. And like, then the only way to grow product ops and to grow our influence is to add more people to do this work across more teams, which doesn't fly in this environment, right? And so I think that like where I see things, I try to encourage people like, okay, no, yeah, we have to find the stuff where we're doing something that actually unlocks something across, pick a minimum of people, but it needs to actually be, oh, this one person is supporting 20 people, right? Like it has to be that scale and that leverage, because otherwise, yeah, if we can't differentiate ourselves from TPMs or program managers, that's not good.
Yep. Yeah, no, I am getting nudges from Anna. We are approaching the end of our time, and Kareem, you left us with a prompt that I think we should take to the chat. So, Kareem, if you wanted to put this in the Product Ops HQ Slack channel around ownership for product ops within organizations, I'm assuming that's sort of reporting lines and organizational design and structure. And I think that this is a great reminder that the Product Ops HQ community is there, and would love to keep some of these thoughts going as we continue to go forward into 2025. Loved this conversation. Thank you all for bearing with my technical difficulties. Definitely feel free to get in touch on LinkedIn. Always excited to hear from folks that are doing product operations in different contexts, in different environments, and different countries. But have a wonderful 2025 and excited to see some of you around all of these virtual communities.
Yeah, so thank you, Claire. I guess you said it all. I would love for all of you to join us in Slack to continue this conversation. You can also get in touch directly with Claire on LinkedIn. And last but not least, I would also love for you to help us shape the future of our community by taking our annual survey that is still live. It only takes 5 minutes of your time, I promise. And your feedback will help us uncover key trends and best practice that will benefit everyone in the community. So Leah is sharing these links for you. And before we say the final goodbyes, I'm also excited to share that we will be continue this AI conversation in our upcoming meetup. So we will dive deeper into how AI is reshaping product ops. So stay tuned, because the registration page will be launched shortly, and I want you all to register and join us there. So thank you once again to everyone for joining us today. And again, a huge, huge thank you to you, Claire, for leading this fantastic session. So see you all next time and have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye.
Bye.